Folks, Black Star Network is here.
Hold no punches.
I'm real revolutionary right now.
Support this man, Black Media. He makes sure that our stories are told.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America, Roland.
Stay black. I love y'all.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, this difference between Black Star Network and Black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be Black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig? is Monday, October 14th, 2024. Coming up on Roland Martin Unfiltered, streaming live on the Black Star Network. I sat down with Vice President Kamala Harris yesterday in Greenville, North Carolina. We talked about a variety of things, including her agenda for black men, as well as how Trump is a threat to African Americans and this country. Also, we talked about what she will do when it comes to the continent of Africa, education, and a host of other issues. It's a conversation you do not want to miss. Also, Chris Towler from the Black Voter Project will be here to discuss recent poll numbers of black men supporting Vice President Harris. Also happening as we speak, black men mobilizing for Kamala Harris or on a Zoom call. We'll show you that live. Also, she'll be speaking tonight at a rally in Erie, Pennsylvania. We'll also be broadcasting that live as well. Black MAGA supporter of Donald Trump, Byron Donalds, admits a second Trump term will be like his first when it comes to black Americans. We know how that went. Also, Trump said he wants to use the military against Americans who don't vote for him. We tried to tell you. Folks, it is time to bring the funk. I'm Roland Martin Unfiltered on the Black Star Network. Let's go.
He's got it. Whatever the miss, he's on it. Whatever it is, he's got the scoop, the fact, the find. And when it breaks, he's right on time and it's rolling. Best believe he's knowing. Putting it down from sports to news to politics. With entertainment just for kicks, he's rolling. It's on go, roll, roll, y'all. It's Roland Martin, yeah. Rolling with Roland now. He's funk, he's fresh, he's real, the best, you know he's Roland Martin now.
Vice President Kamala Harris unveiled today a plan that speaks directly to black men. She lays out, it's called With the Tools to Achieve Financial Freedom, but it doesn't just cover finances, deals with health and other issues. Here's some of the things in this particular proposal from the Harris-Walz campaign. Provide $1 million fully forgivable loans to black entrepreneurs to start a business. Excuse me. Champion education, training, and mentorship programs. Support a regulatory framework for cryptocurrency and other digital assets. Launch a national health equity initiative focused on black men. Legalize recreational marijuana and create opportunities for black Americans. Also in the plan, as I said, it deals with health, education, any number of things there. Now, of course, you've had folks who've been calling for, oh, we need this specific plan. But the reality is, what you see right here also impacts all black people, not just black men. Now, she wants to create and invest in programs that help expand pathways for job opportunities for black men, including promoting apprenticeships, strengthening the public service loan forgiveness program, and investing in more black male teachers. Now, I sat down with her yesterday in North Carolina. We're going to play that interview for you in about 30 minutes. But right now, though, I do want to talk about this particular agenda. Now, what's happening right now is a group of black men on a Zoom call talking about this very thing. And so they're talking, Trey Baker, with the campaign, is talking to Tony West, the brother-in-law of Vice President Kamala Harris. Let's go live to that call right now.
President, we've been on the road almost nonstop since the convention, really. And we've got 3 weeks to go. Sort of two things I'll mention. First is that, or three things. First is that this campaign, as you all well know, this election is very, very close. We've got 3 weeks left before we start, before Election Day. And it is so close in all the battleground states. And I believe that this is one of the few elections in American history that will be decided by not just men. And I think that creates a tremendous opportunity to speak to black men about the issues that we care about most. Second thing I'll say is that the vice president is no stranger to these issues. Throughout her vice presidency, certainly throughout her career, but particularly throughout her vice presidency, she has been convening black men at her residence to talk about these issues that are important to us and to our community. This is something she's done throughout her 20-year public service career, but particularly as vice president, she's put a premium on this, whether it's doing visits to small businesses around the country, small black businesses around the country, or whether it is talking about the health and concerns that black men have and are confronting and dealing with that as vice president. This is something that she has done and has made a priority her entire career, and certainly as vice president. Third thing I wanted to talk about was just to give you the sort of top lines of the policy agenda that the vice president rolled out today, the opportunity agenda for black men. And this is really a comprehensive plan that's aimed at helping black men secure financial freedom, to lower costs, to better provide themselves and their families with what they need in order to be successful. And specifically, there are a couple of top lines that are worth noting. For instance, in the plan, the vice president's proposing up to 1 million fully forgivable startup business loans for black entrepreneurs. That's going to help not only create jobs in our communities, it's going to help supercharge the growth and the creation of small businesses, and particularly black small businesses in this country. We've already seen in the last 3.5 years, more black small businesses started in the last 3.5 years than we had seen in the previous 3 decades. The vice president wants to continue doing just that. Second, this agenda calls for a regulatory framework for cryptocurrency and other digital assets. And as many folks know, many of you know, black folks and Latinos actually own a lot of digital assets and use that as a way of building wealth. You know, for a lot of us, sort of in the generation that I am in and in our parents' generation, the way that families could primarily build wealth was through home ownership. Another vehicle, particularly in communities of color, has been through owning digital assets. And it's important that we have a regulatory framework that protects those investments, protects those investors, but also allows us to develop that technology. And that is what the vice president is proposing. The other thing that is a part of this opportunity agenda is one that goes right to healthcare, a national health equity initiative focused on black men who are disproportionately impacted by right? Mental health, prostate cancer, diabetes, other health challenges, something that is focused on addressing those health issues in a meaningful and impactful way. And then lastly, I guess the last one I'll mention is the legalization of recreational marijuana at the federal level. This is so important because a lot of Black entrepreneurs, as we know, have been able to find opportunity in the cannabis industry. But they've been impeded and hamstrung by the fact that at the federal level, notwithstanding the fact that over 30 states have legalized cannabis, at the federal level, we still see cannabis treated as a scheduled drug that makes it very difficult for Black entrepreneurs to get the funding and the capital that they need, the bank loans that they need, because banks and other financial institutions that are federally regulated are very reluctant to fund those ventures. And so by changing that at the federal level, this will create opportunities, particularly it'll create opportunities across the board, but particularly for Black entrepreneurs to succeed in this new industry. So those are the top lines. I'm very excited about it. I'm very excited to be out here on the road and to start talking about this with Black men all over the country. But with that, let me just kick it back over to Trey. Thanks again for joining.
But we appreciate what you're doing out on the road. We see you in the car right now. I was with you in Milwaukee. I know you're hitting stops in Philadelphia and in Georgia and elsewhere because it's so important to take this message out. So thank you for the work that you're doing. We will see you on the road as we continue over these next 20 some odd days until we get to Election Day. Appreciate that. We're going to turn now to a group of, or a couple of men who we have on.
All right, folks, again, if you want to join that call, we're actually live streaming that on one of our other channels, so you can actually check that out live. That continues as we go forward with our show. Trey asked me to join the calls. I said, Trey, I'm kind of working right now, so I can't do that. Let me bring in my panel, Dr. Julianne Malveaux, economist, president, emerita, Bennett College, also the author out of D.C., Dr. Amakongo Dibinga Sr., professorial lecturer, School of International Service, American University out of D.C., former Renita Shannon, former Georgia State Representative, joining us out of Atlanta. Amakongo, I want to start with you. So, first of all, let's be real clear. All of this stuff has been going on. And I'm just going to say this, that this reminds me of what happened during when Stacey Abrams was running for governor. We saw all of these stories about, oh my God, she's awful with Black men, and Black men not going to vote for her. Things are not going well. Then when the election happened, none of that was the case. You have white media driving this narrative. And it was like manna from heaven when Obama made his comments on Friday. And they have been talking about it since Friday and Saturday and Sunday and today. And, the thing for me as I look at this is we had the panels last week when we were in Philadelphia. And I'm going to stand on this. I don't care what anybody has to say. And I dare them to come at me on this. When I kept hearing folks say, Black men want to be heard, want to be talked to, totally agree with that. I've been saying since 2012, you got to communicate, you got to message. But then when people kept saying, Black men need to hear a specific agenda, just like all these other Black people kept saying specifics. As a matter of fact, I had somebody on my Instagram page. She didn't say what she was going to do specifically for Black people. Well, in fact, that was the first question that I had asked her, because there was this clip going around on Amakongo when she said, I'm not going to sit here and say what I'm going to do specifically for Black people, but they cut out what she said before that and after that. And I asked her that in the interview. Folks will see later. But every time I challenge these brothers on the issue of, what specifically, they can't seem to answer. Yep. And then when they bring it up, I then go, this happened. and I lay all these things out. And then when they do that, I then talk about how those very same things have a direct impact on black women. And it's not like black women are saying, well, you ain't saying nothing, doing nothing. And so that's what bothers me. And so I appreciate what the vice president put out today, but to act as if Biden-Harris hasn't done anything that has an impact on black people is simply nonsensical.
100%. Look, if you don't know what Vice President Harris's plans are now, you either don't know how to read or you simply just don't care to know. Because it's all been out there. It's been all on. You've talked about it even before she was, running for president. Look, the fact of the matter is, and then we can flip it, Roland. Donald Trump's been running for out there for 8-9 years now. What's his plan? What's his plan for black people? What, the Cadillac plan? Is that what's going on with Trump? So what is it that we know about him? Vice President Harris has been direct. She's been authentic. She has talked about this, again, before she was running for president. And on top of that, you have people like yourself, organizations like the Black Economic Alliance, who've also talked about her agenda for black people. And then the flip side, which what you started with, people are, especially in these white media outlets, are setting it up to blame her potentially losing the election on black men specifically and black people as a whole, which makes no sense because, as we always talked about, black men are number 2 behind black women. And no other group, no other presidential candidate has numbers that represent for them as high as black women followed by black men. Trump may get 60%, white women, 50-some% white men or something like that. No one's getting 80+% from any group. So that's something that should be commended. And I do believe that both black men and women are going to turn out in over 90% for Harris. And look, you got this call that you just went into right now, everything that you've been doing, these celebrities, everybody from Steph Curry, other personalities like D.L. Hughley. I mean, even people talk about Charlemagne being the contrary. And he was like, look, I voted for Biden because of Harris back in 2020. So this is a false narrative. If they did as many stories on white women who constantly let the Democratic Party down, if they did as many stories on them as they do on black men and how they may let Harris down, then we get some real issues right now getting talked about, because I'm not concerned about us. People who are black men who are not going to vote for Harris, they were not going to vote for her anyway, and there's nothing we can do to get them. I do believe there are some people who need to know, but at this point, 20-something days going into the election, the onus is on those folks who say they don't know to get out there and find out. Like, Google Kamala Harris black men and everything you'll know, type in Black Star Network or Roland Martin so you can go to a real source, and everything you'll need to know is right there. Watch this interview tonight. Share this interview. And outside of that, if you didn't vote for her because you say you don't know her policies, you chose to remain ignorant, and that's on you.
See, here's the thing right here, Renita. They laid out, again, this Vice President Harris will deliver for black men. And so it lays out a variety of things in here. First and foremost, look, I was there in Detroit. I was there in Atlanta. She went to Atlanta multiple times. She went to Charlotte, actually talking about this economic opportunity tour. And so then you go through here. So you heard the things that we already talked about, launching a national health equity initiative focused on black men that addresses sickle cell disease, diabetes, mental health, prostate cancer, and other health challenges that disproportionately affect them. And so then you go through here. And you see these things. You look at the issues here where you talk about this $20,000 forgivable loan for black entrepreneurs. And so then when you go through here and you begin to see a partnership with the Small Business Administration, expanding access to bank accounts. Again, when you talk about enabling black men and other workers to profit when company executives profit, expanding pathways for black men to good paying jobs, whether or not they have a college degree, and on and on and on. Now, I say all of that. I say all of that because, again, those things are good because, again, what black folks are saying is I want to hear from you in terms of what you're going to do. But when I think about hashtag we did that, and that's what I use here. Here we go to my iPad, because I asked the White House, tell me exactly what you actually accomplished in 3.5 years for African Americans. I need everybody listening. I'm just going to go through this here. So They sent me, achieved lowest black unemployment rate on record, created 2.4 million jobs for black workers as of August 2024, lifted 400,000 black children out of poverty by increased SNAP benefits through updating the Thrifty Food Plan. Who wants to actually cut the SNAP program? Republicans. Grew black American business ownership at the fastest rate in over 3 decades. Triple the number of SBA-backed loans to black-owned businesses. Awarded a record $10 billion in federal contracts to black-owned small businesses in 2023. Invested more than $16 billion in HBCUs. Secured a $900 increase to the maximum Pell Grant Award, largest increase in the past 10 years. And here's the piece. That Pell Grant money is actually in addition to the HBCU money. Then approved the cancellation of almost $170 billion in student loan debt, rooted out racial bias in home appraisals, and closed the black-white home valuation disparity gap by 40%. And you'll hear me talk to Vice President Harris about that. Reduced mortgage insurance premiums for FHA loans, saving 76,000 black households $900 a year. Cut costs for high-speed internet to 5.5 million black households with the Affordable Connectivity Program. Distributed $2.2 billion in financial assistance to over 43,000 farmers who experienced discrimination. And of course, Stephen Miller, Trump's white nationalist, sued to stop the money that was allocated to black and Hispanic farmers. Led a historically equitable economic recovery. Black wealth, even after adjusting for inflation, is up 60% to pre-pandemic levels, the largest increase on record. Ending health disparities. It says right here, lower premium costs by an average of $800 for millions of Americans, increasing black enrollment in the Affordable Care Act coverage by 95%, more than 1.7 million people since 2020. That specifically impacts black men and their health. Lowered monthly premiums for health insurance, capped the cost of insulin at $35 and out-of-pocket drug costs at $2,000 for those on Medicare. Announced the first 10 prescription drugs for Medicare price negotiation, saving some $1.5 billion. Made sickle cell disease the first focus of the new Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services model. Expanded Medicaid postpartum coverage from 60 days to 12 months in 46 states and Washington, D.C., covering 700,000 more women in the year of childbirth. Secured an additional $1.5 billion for a Head Start. Delivered $1 billion to more than 40 states to increase the number of school-based mental health professionals. Signed 2 executive orders directing the federal government to address inequality. Protected black history as American history. Signed the Juneteenth National Independence Day Act. Designated Springfield 1908 Race Riot and Emmett Till and Mamie Till Mobley National Monuments. Signed the Emmett Till Anti-Lynching Act to classify lynching for the first time as a federal hate crime. Worked to protect the sacred right to vote through executive actions and continued calls for legislation. Appointed the first black woman to the Supreme Court. There are more black women federal circuit court and more black women to federal circuit courts than all previous presidents combined, and more black judges appointed in a single term, more than any other president in American history. Signed an executive order on police reform when Senate Republicans blocked the George Floyd Justice Act. Signed into law the first bipartisan Safer Communities Act. Secured $350 million in funding specifically for community violence intervention programs. Pardoned thousands of Americans under federal and D.C. law for simple possession of marijuana. Helped bring crime to its lowest level in 50 years, lower than during any year of the previous administration. And what's not in here, I'll add, that was 1 patterns and practice investigation, Renita, under Trump, 12 under Biden-Harris. Donald Trump executed 13 people in 6 months on the federal level, 0 under Biden-Harris. Then, when you look at Department of Justice, mortgage discrimination, settlements with various people, putting former cops in prison for beating black people, jailers and wardens, exact same thing, investigations and action against various juvenile programs in Texas, as well as investigating prison conditions in Mississippi, South Carolina, Georgia, and on. Now, my criticism of the Biden-Harris administration is that this stuff was not constantly touted over the last 3.5 years. But I can't act like it didn't happen.
Well, it's that time of the year and this part of the election cycle where, as the election tightens, we see this every time where we see folks who instantly go to blame black men, saying that they are not going to vote for the candidate. And so once again, things are being blamed on black men when, as you said before, it's just not true. The majority of black men do still vote for Democrats, just like the majority of black women do. You mentioned, here in Georgia in 2018, there were over 1 million black people of every gender that did not vote for Stacey Abrams. So this is not something where it's, something that is factually based to just say that black men are always the ones letting us down. It's just not true. I also think this is very interesting that right now the polling shows that Latino men are 15% behind Latino women as it relates to how they feel about the Harris campaign, but nobody is, sort of preemptively blaming them for, impending loss. So I think all of that is very interesting.
Yep.
This is the thing. Voters are very simple. They have to, number one, understand what you are saying you will do. So things need to be in very simple layman's terms when you're talking about what policies you're going to move forward. And then the second thing is whatever you're saying you're going to do has to align with the voters' priorities. So it doesn't matter how long the list is that you give of the things you've done. If it's not what the voters, what was their top priorities, it will count as essentially nothing. I think that the plan that she rolled out today, I see two good points. I see 2 points that need more specifics, but then I see 2 good points that I think hit that sweet spot of easy to understand, and it does go to what I have heard black men say are part of their priorities. It's that $1 million for small business loans. That's important because we've heard over and over again black men say that they are interested in not so much, obviously there's a certain population that wants to have better jobs, and we need that with the livable wage. But then there are some black men who have said this is their life dream, just to be able to start a small business, feed their family, take care of their family, and be able to work for themselves. The second thing that I think is a big deal is the fourth policy that talks about legalizing marijuana. This is so important, not because we are saying that black men care about marijuana so much specifically, but what we know is the war on drugs that started in the 80s ruined a lot of lives, and black men were disproportionately targeted for that crackdown sort of by the criminal legal system. And so criminal legal reform is extremely important. And so whether you're talking about black men saying, hey, I remember what happened to me and this was not fair and it ruined my life, or whether you're talking about black men who maybe never had any interest in marijuana, they still have relatives in their family who are other black men, and black women also have black men in their families too. And they want to know that their lives are not going to be ruined because of policy that just does not make any sense. So I think that those 2 policies that she's got are definitely the sweet spot, and I think she needs to go further in that direction. I'd love to see some clarification on the health initiative, because what are we talking about? Are you saying that even if you don't have insurance, you'll get free colonoscopies, or are we just saying we're going to talk to black men about why it's important to get your colonoscopy?
Well,
this is the
direction. But here's the thing, Julian. Again, go to my iPad. If black men are saying, hey, we want to see loans to black-owned businesses, this is a press release from September 21st, 2023. SBA data shows major increases in loans to black-owned businesses under Biden-Harris. That's actually been happening. It's been happening. So, again, if anybody out there who's like, oh, she's saying black-owned businesses are going to get loans, they have been getting loans. They've tripled. Go right ahead.
No, you're absolutely right, Roland. I think that the biggest flaw in the Biden-Harris administration has been their failure to trumpet their victories. And so now we're getting this, and it's not like we're just getting it. We know about what they've done. Some of us know, but as Oma Congo says, if you don't know, it's because you don't want to know. I mean, I'm sick of people saying, give me more specifics. She's giving you as many as she can. She can't tell you exactly what's going to happen because she doesn't know what the Senate is going to look like, what the House is going to look like, but she's showing her intent. And so I think there are a lot of people who are shilly-shallying. And among those shilly-shallying are the mainstream media. I keep seeing it in the background in my office most of the day. I do switch to Black Star Network every now and then. But in any case, I think today every show has had something about black men, something negative, black men not voting for Harris. And it's a way, first of all, driving a wedge through the black community, which, white folks love, driving a wedge in the black community so that black women and black men get to be at each other's throat about this. That's number one. But number two, as Renita says, it demonizes black men. So if the unfortunate occurrence is that Kamala Harris loses, which we pray does not happen, I can hear the pundits already. She lost because of black men. Let's be clear about what proportion of the population black men are. Let's be clear about what black men, could do, could not do. And let's not allow this to draw a wedge in our community, because that's what they like more than anything else. Now, the third thing I will say is that there are these, what is it, black men for Trump? I was online looking at that earlier today, and you want to know who are these black men and why. Now, I'm not throwing shade at anybody, but one of the people is Kwame Kilpatrick. Loved the brother when he was mayor of Detroit. Trump pardoned him. So is this a quid pro quo or what? His politics were never aligned with the Trump, but now he's in this group of, I think they listed 5 or 6 black men. I didn't know any of the other ones. Not that I have to. I probably wouldn't want to. But just look at who these black men are and where they're coming from. And then finally, I don't know what's going to happen in the interview with Charlemagne the God. I've never listened to his show. I guess I have to catch up on my cultural awareness. But they've already demonized him, say he's going to be hostile to her. Now, how do they know? So again, it's really trying to throw black men under the bus, and it's objectionable. White folks say they don't want to play racial politics, but they play racial politics all the time. And this is certainly one time when they're lifting up black men in a negative way that they're playing racial politics.
Playing racial politics, white folks do that. Yeah, I actually had turned the mic off. That was Congresswoman Maxine Waters' call. I got to call her back. They play racial politics all the time, and the reality is they need to be challenged as well on what the hell their numbers look like. Chris Towler, he's the director of the Black Voter Project, co-founder of Black Insights Research, joins me now from Sacramento. And again, all of these people, all of these folks, Chris, they going on and on and on, and now everybody and their mama want to analyze the black vote. Okay, and then what all these networks are doing, sending these silly-ass reporters out there to interview brothers playing basketball. But here's what they never ask, Chris. They never first say, are you registered? Then they never asked, if you are registered, when's the last time you voted? So then all of a sudden, oh my goodness, NBC, we went out and talked to a group of black men, and all of them are voting for Trump. When Don Lemon was walking around talking to people, and all these networks have done that, but they don't ask that important question. First, are you registered? 2, do you vote? And everybody and their mama now got an opinion on black men, and none of them are actually looking at data. And the last point here, Chris, before I go to you, they just take whatever poll white mainstream media puts out and just take it as fact. I saw one, oh my goodness, according to this poll, Donald Trump is getting 26% of the black vote. Another poll, 2 out of 5 black men are gonna vote for Donald Trump. And I'm like, not now one black poll has showed any of that.
Nothing, Roland. Thanks again for having me on. I think that, just to reiterate this point, the narrative about black men voting for Trump has been blown out of proportion ever since Biden was the nominee. Even back then, the number of black men supporting Trump was not any higher than in 2020. And the data that I have suggests that it's actually dropped since Harris took over the ticket. And so we're seeing less black men saying that they're going to vote for Trump now than we did when Biden was the nominee. And so that number has been steadily decreasing. We really expect it to continue to decrease, especially as we move towards the election. And we actually are looking, as you said, at people that are actually going to vote rather than those that are just being polled. And a lot of times you see these likely voter polls, but then you look at the black subsample where they are just trying to get people in, right? They don't have any history or real record of polling black folk. And so they end up with a good percent of even their likely voter sample is made up of people who haven't voted, didn't even vote in 2020. And so right now we've even been modeling at Black Insights the way that black men vote and what actually predicts whether or not black men are going to support Trump versus someone else. And other than the idea of Trump as a threat being a major factor in determining whether or not black men are going to support Trump, it's also whether or not you voted in the past, specifically in 2020. And one of the most forceful predictors as to whether or not a black man says that they're going to support Trump is if they did not vote in 2020. If they voted in 2020, they are far less likely to say that they're going to support Trump this time around.
Okay, and so when we look at this, I don't understand. Black men have the lowest percentage of anyone voting for Donald Trump. Why are they not talking to these white men and Latino men and Asian American men?
Yeah, at this point, it really does seem like the same old narratives being set up to try and scapegoat black men when it's all said and done. If for some reason Harris doesn't win and loses this election, as you mentioned, black men not only have a higher rate of voting for the Democrats, the lowest rate of voting for Trump of any men, race or ethnic group, but even vote at higher rates than both white women and Latino or Hispanic women. And so the only group that they don't match when it comes to their support for the Democratic Party is black women. And there is a conversation to be had there, one that probably should be internal within the black community as to why black men and black women, why there is still a gender gap there. But to say that black men are supporting Trump or are not supporting the Democrats at any significant rate is ridiculous when looking at the complete picture, right, and the full story of the electorate.
And not only that, the last election, 70% of the electorate was white. So now I'm just trying to figure out, how is the whole election on black people? Last I checked, I think it's more white people in Michigan, Wisconsin, Pennsylvania. Last I checked. Or is that just me?
No, you're absolutely right. To that point, I think that what we're finding when we look at the polls specifically is that there are very few undecided voters left. We are in a very extremely polarized electorate, polarized political times. And so really, right, there's very little room amongst any racial ethnic group to try and sway people. And so for me, the reason why black voters are so important, though, is because of turnout numbers. And if black folks can get to vote, are turning out at a greater percentage than they are of the population, if they are overrepresented in the electorate, then that tremendously helps to the Democratic Party, right? Because, you know, every 100 people that turn out, every 100 black people that vote, 80 to 90 of them are going to vote Democrat. And so it really makes sense for the Democrats to target black people rather than continue to question whether or not black people, and specifically black men, are faithful in their support.
And again, when we start looking at these things, again, so all of this focus is on black men. This literally is what Congressman Byron Donalds said about Trump's black agenda.
Turn to the topic of what Kamala Harris is doing this coming week, particularly Monday and Tuesday. She's got several events courting black voters. I know that you are talking about the black vote coming out, particularly black men, for Donald Trump. You're trying to help him along with that. To that point, can you talk specifically about what Donald Trump would do policy-wise in a second term to help black Americans?
Sure, and thank you for that question. What Donald Trump is going to do is going to be actually quite similar to what he did in his first term. When you lower tax rates, when you cut these reckless and crazy policies that are now in the Kamala Harris administration, and you cut those regulations down, what it does is it frees up the ability for businesses to thrive, for people to be able to earn more money, for them to be able to keep more money in their pockets.
There's no
what. Chris, go ahead.
There's no specificity there whatsoever, right? When asked what specific plans Trump has in mind, there's nothing, because there's no plans, right? We already see Trump offering to put architects of Project 2025 in his cabinet if he were to take office, and we already know Project 2025 is working to dismantle the black community rather than build it up, right? The policies that are important to the black community, things like building black business, you know, the Trump economy, crush black business. And that the only talking point they have is that black employment was historically low, which is completely false, right? We know that black unemployment was far lower under the Biden administration. Other issues that matter to the black community, policing, right? We already know Project 2025, the MAGA wants to give police federal immunity, right? Expand immunity for police forces. Other issues important to the black community, you know, you want to go as far as talk about reparations. We've recently heard Trump himself and a number of Republican surrogates say that reparations are not something that they support, right? They don't support taxpayer or federal funded reparations for descendants of slavery. So it's very clear that there is no agenda there from Trump whatsoever for the Black community. Anything you hear otherwise is really absolute pandering and lies.
So if you're a brother or a sister out there and you don't want Trump to be talking about, you don't want to see police acting a fool in our communities, and then they say, well, Trump, he didn't write Project 2025. Okay, this came out of his own mouth.
The liberal left won't let him do it. The liberal left wants to destroy him, and they want to destroy our country. You know, if you had one day, like one real rough, nasty day with the drugstores as an example, but they have to be taught. Now, if you had one really violent day, like a guy like Mike Kelly, put him in charge, Congressman Kelly, put him in charge for one day. Mike, would you say, he's right here, it's a chain of events that's so bad. One rough hour, and I mean real rough, the word will get out and it will end immediately. End immediately. You know, it'll end immediately. Crooked Joe Biden do it because the liberal...
What he's saying, Chris, let's unleash the cops on all these neighborhoods, we'll be good.
Well, where's he talking about as well, right? We've heard him say many other times the places that he feels need to be targeted, the places where crime is out of control. He's talking about some of the blackest cities in the country. He talks about Detroit. He talks about D.C., Atlanta, Baltimore, as these places where they need extra enforcement, where people need to be put back in their place. So it's no coincidence that, you know, these things, he's not saying these things in a vacuum. You have to be able to connect all the dots here, is when he's talking about unleashing police, unleashing force on people. And then the next day he's talking about how some of these cities, the blackest cities in America, are out of control. It's all related, right? This is all part of his philosophy and the politics that he sees for the world and for America going forward.
And I'm sure somebody is saying, well, I didn't really hear him say that he's going to give cops immunity. Here it is. Come on, guys.
I'm giving federal immunity to police officers.
Let me roll it back.
That we're going to give immunity to police so they can do their job. I'm giving federal immunity to police officers so they can do their job.
Right there.
Yeah, we're going to give immunity to police
right there.
so they can...
Give federal immunity to police so they can do their jobs. Let me remind everybody, when he was there, Jeff Sessions, we're going to pull back on consent decrees because it's hurting morale of cops. He's saying, I'm going to let these folks do whatever the hell they want to do in neighborhoods nationwide.
Well, and furthermore, Roland, he's also saying that he wants to dismantle educational systems, first starting with Black history, starting with education about slavery, moving as far as dismantling the Department of Education altogether so that this misinformation campaign of the right wing, the far right messages about Black people can be the dominant message that people hear, and that we won't even have an opportunity to learn about what police have been doing or are doing to people in our communities, right? We won't be able to talk about George Floyd or Trayvon Martin in the classroom. We won't be able to talk about the 1619 Project. We won't have the opportunity to have these conversations according to the Project 2025 and the far right agenda.
Last question. I know you got an interview to do for the other network, and that is this here. Do you believe over the next 23 days, we're going to see Vice President Kamala Harris build her lead among African Americans? And do you think, based upon what you're seeing, that it's going to get to 88, 90%?
Yeah, I think the lead was going to build regardless. I think as the election got closer, Black support was, and we've seen this in the polls, coalescing around Harris and moving away from Trump. I think a lot of the early polls, they were bad polls to start with, but they were also capturing a lot of unlikely voters in those samples, people who weren't sure yet because it was really early in the game. So I think that was going to happen regardless. I think what her messaging, if she continues to focus in on the Black community and message directly to the Black community as she's been doing, we could see turnout skyrocket as well. And so I think we will see the 88, 90 support from the Black community for Harris, but I'm hoping we also see the 65, 66% turnout levels that we saw under Obama, right? And that's really what we need to have a dominant victory so that we don't have to worry about any of these legal challenges, challenging vote certifications or vote counts anywhere in the state, in the country, already understanding that the states with high black voter populations are going to be the target there. And so really, I'm really happy about everything that's been going on, the developments in the last 72 hours, her coming on your show and really doing a really in-depth, clear interview with you about issues to the black community, and I hope she keeps it up.
All right, Chris Towler, we certainly appreciate it. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
All right, folks, going to go to a quick break. We come back on Roland Martin Unfiltered. We'll have for you my interview with Vice President Kamala Harris. We'll play that we'll play that. We'll also talk with our panel about that as well. Also, don't forget, Donald Trump, he wants to unleash the military against his critics. He actually said it. You're watching Roland Martin Unfiltered on the Black Star Network.
He told us who he was.
Should abortion be punished? There has to be some form of punishment.
Then he showed us.
For 54 years, they were trying to get Roe v. Wade terminated, and I did it, and I'm proud to have done it.
Now Donald Trump wants to go further with plans to restrict birth control, ban abortion nationwide, even monitor women's pregnancies. We know who Donald Trump is. He'll take control. We'll pay the price.
I'm Kamala Harris, and I approve this message.
In 2016, Donald Trump said he would choose only the best people to work in his White House. Now those people have a warning for America. Trump is not fit to be president again. Here's his vice president.
Anyone who puts himself over the Constitution should never be president of the United States. It should come as no surprise that I will not be endorsing Donald Trump this year.
His defense secretary.
Do you think Trump can be trusted with the nation's secrets ever again?
No. I mean, it's just irresponsible action that places our service members at risk, places our nation's security at risk.
His national security advisor.
Donald Trump will cause a lot of damage. The only thing he cares about is Donald Trump.
And the nation's highest-ranking military officer.
We don't take an oath to a king or a queen or to a tyrant or a dictator. And we don't take an oath to a wannabe dictator.
Take it from the people who knew him best. Donald Trump is a danger to our troops and our democracy. We can't let him lead our country again.
I'm Kamala Harris, and I approve this message. I get it. The cost of rent, groceries, and utilities is too high. So here's what we're going to do about it. We will lower housing costs by building more homes and crack down on landlords who are charging too much. We will lower your food and grocery bills by going after price gougers who are keeping the cost of everyday goods too high. I'm Kamala Harris, and I approve this message because you work hard for your paycheck. You should get to keep more of it. As president, I'll make that my top priority.
Hey, what's up, y'all? I'm Devon Frank.
I'm Dr. Robin B., pharmacist and fitness coach, and you're watching Roland Martin Unfiltered.
Vice President,
Roland
glad to have you here. Ready to bring the funk?
I'm trying. I'm trying.
Let's get right to it. So right before I walked out there, someone posted a clip, and usually the clip, I'm not going to sit here and say I'm going to do anything specifically for African Americans. But folk don't talk about what you said right before when you said that public policy that benefits black folks, it benefits everybody else.
Right.
Even when we look at historically, Civil Rights Act, Voting Rights Act, it actually didn't just impact the African Americans, it impacted everyone else. But talk about that, because so many people have only clipped that one part without understanding the public policy implications.
That's too bad. That's too bad. I'm sorry to hear that. Right. So you know that, I mean, going back even before, but Dr. King was very clear, right? If you have certain policies that recognize, one, that not everybody starts out on the same base. If you have public policy, and I'm talking about economic public policy specifically at this point, but if you have public policy that recognizes historical barriers and what we need to do then to overcome, first speak truth about them and then overcome them, that in the process of doing that, not only are you directly dealing with the injustices and the legal and procedural barriers that have been focused on black folks, but by eliminating those barriers, everyone actually benefits, right? And I know that to be true. So my policies include what I know is going to have a profound impact on black folks around economic policy, but everyone will benefit from them. I intend to create as president what I have named an opportunity economy that taps into the ambitions and the aspirations and the dreams of the American people, and then addresses those in a way that recognizes, unlike my opponent who was handed $400 million on a silver platter and then filed bankruptcy 6 times, not everyone has access to those kinds of resources, but when you give people access to those resources, they thrive and we all benefit. Opportunity economy. That's why I say I'm going to make sure that we give first-time home buyers a $25,000 down payment assistance. Because, again, we know that when you look at the history of how black folks have been denied the opportunity for home ownership, be it redlining or what we know has still been happening around a bias in home appraisals, that it is a barrier to achieving intergenerational success. But when we address it by doing things like helping folks get their foot in the door with a down payment assistance, they will have the ability to be on that track of intergenerational wealth building. My plan for extending and expanding the child tax credit, $6,000 for the first year of a child's life. Because our parents, just like any parent, have a natural desire to parent their children well, but not always the resources to do that. So $6,000 in the first year of your child's life helps you buy that car seat or crib or the clothes that are necessary to build the foundation for that important phase of their development that gets them on the right track.
I do want to do the housing piece because what I think is not being talked about, the building of new housing stock.
Yes.
And so because of the home foreclosure crisis, we literally built under 9 or 10 million homes in 2020. And we're underbuilt now as well. The fewest homes being built since the 1940s.
Yes.
So a huge part of this problem with housing is that we don't have the stock. So talk about that piece there, because you've got demand, but you don't actually have right now the available homes.
So, and I'm glad you actually presented the point the way you did, because let's also go back to what you know in my history on this in terms of being Attorney General. When I took on the big banks, and because they were doing predatory lending, and a lot of the folks who were targeted with that predatory lending were black folks who were being told, oh, you don't need to worry about it. We're going to give you this money. And so you can buy a home without actually doing the analysis to figure out if they'd be able to afford to pay it back, right? And folks trusted the banks that if you're going to loan me the money, then you must have determined I have the ability to actually, be able to see it through. And the foreclosure rates for black homeowners during that crisis.
53% of black wealth wiped out.
That's exactly right, Roland. I took on and sued the big banks and ended up delivering $20 billion for the homeowners of California. The former President Obama recently mentioned the fact that I actually took on the Department of Justice and the administration saying, I'm not going to do a deal that brings crumbs to the table.
But not just when you're Attorney General, because even right now, the DOJ, Civil Rights Division, the redlining lawsuits, mortgage discrimination.
We have been taking all of it on. Mortgage discrimination, also discrimination in home appraisals. We've taken on the fact that, you know, those stories about a black family is trying to get their home appraised. They want to get a second mortgage. They want to sell the house, whatever. And they bring in the appraiser. The appraiser looks around, looks at the family pictures, and appraises it for less than it's worth. The family knows that. They're not stupid.
The black folks got to remove photos,
so
books,
then they
DVDs,
remove photos and everything else, right? They remove
all the blackness.
All of that. And then they ask a white family that's a friend of theirs, come in, they put up their pictures, and the house gets appraised for more. Racial bias, we're taking that on for the first time. And I want to give due credit to former Secretary of HUD, Marcia Fudge, for being a leader on that. These are the things we've taken on. And as president, to your point about supply, I'm going to create tax incentives for home builders and developers to build 3 million new housing units by the end of my first term, because a big part of jacking up the prices has been the supply is not meeting demand, so the prices are higher. And when you couple that with $25,000 down payment assistance, we have the ability to give people the opportunity to achieve what generations before called the American dream, but which has been out of reach for too many people. My work around thinking about how it's going to directly impact black folks is knowing that when you look at racial bias in home appraisals, when you look at the disproportionate rates of black home ownership to other people having home ownership, it's too low. And it's not because we don't aspire to have a home or buy a home. My work is about looking at small businesses, knowing they're the backbone of our economy in the neighborhood, in communities, and giving folks an extension of a tax deduction so it's not just $5,000 for a startup small business, but $50,000, because nobody can start up a small business on $5,000.
I'm glad you mentioned small business. I was talking to a black restaurant owner in Houston, and we were talking about the corporate tax rate.
Yeah.
And one of the things that he said was, he said, listen, I'm looking at her proposal. I'm looking at what was the place beforehand. He said, because when it got cut, it puts $500,000 in my pocket.
Yeah.
When I was in Georgia, Senator Warnock's campaign 2022, a black woman said, hey, she said, I get reproductive rights. She said, but I'm not having any kids, but I do care about taxes.
Yeah.
And so that's one of the things that I'm hearing from a number of African-American business owners who are saying, okay, what will Vice President do if she's president deal with corporate tax rate? And so you talked about increasing it. Will that mean a certain cap? So let's say if you 50 million, 100 million revenue or less, will that go up? Or will that corporate tax rate apply to all businesses?
So first of all, the corporate tax rate years ago was in the 30s. So I'm not doing that. But in terms of tax cuts for middle-class families, my agenda is all about tax cuts for middle-class families and no tax rate hike for anybody making less than $400,000 a year. But my approach is also about giving 100 million Americans a tax cut in terms of middle-class tax cuts. Donald Trump, on the other hand, first of all, like he did before, he will do again and has pretty much pledged that he will give a tax cut for billionaires and the biggest corporations. Donald Trump has indicated that basically what I call a Trump sales tax will be in place, which is a 20% tax on everyday goods and services, which economists have estimated will cost the average American family $4,000 more a year. Goldman Sachs.
Including the small businesses.
Of course,
yeah.
Including small businesses. Not to mention what he is doing. If you look at Project 2025, what they're proposing in terms of cutting off, for example, we see Hurricane Helene, what we have seen happen in terms of Milton, cutting off the SBA ability to give small businesses that have experienced an extreme weather event, a disaster, giving them additional resources. This man don't want to help small businesses. He cares about the kinds of people who run the businesses he runs, big developers, billionaires. He's not looking out for middle-class folks. You look at what he is proposing in terms of cutting, if you look at the cost that middle-class families bear, healthcare costs. We have capped the cost of insulin at $35 a month for seniors. Black folks are 60% more likely to be diagnosed with diabetes. Under Project 2025, they would undo that $35 cap. You look at what he is planning to do that is about getting rid of the Department of Education and Head Start programs. Who do you think that's going to affect? So there is, first of all, you look at what he is planning to do that is about getting rid of the Department of Education and Head Start programs. Who do you think that's going to affect? So there is, first of all, a danger in terms of understanding. There are two choices in this election, and understanding what Donald Trump intends for middle-class families. Two, look at it in the context of how he actually thinks and talks about black folks in America. And you and I have talked about this before. He is not looking out for folks when he was a landlord and would not rent to black families, sued for it. When he took out a full-page ad in the New York Times against those 5 teenagers, black and Latino, who were innocent, saying they should be executed, the Central Park 5. When you look at the first black president of the United States, and he had birther lines, and now you look at black immigrants, legal immigrants in Springfield, Ohio, and he gets on a debate stage and says they're eating their pets? Come on. This man is dangerous. Not to mention, Roland, let's fast forward to right now. His staff won't let him do a 60 Minutes interview. Every president for the last half century has done one, anyone who's running for president. Everyone has done it, except Donald Trump. He will not debate me again. I put out my medical records. He won't put out his medical records. And you have to ask, why is his staff doing that? And it may be because they think he's just not ready and unfit and unstable and should not have that level of transparency for the American people. There's a real choice in this election.
You mentioned the Department of Education. I was on a call a couple weeks ago, Jeffrey Canada, Steve Perry, Jalen Rose, and others who are supporters of school choice, parental choice. And what they've complained about is that you haven't heard a lot about education in the last several months. And they were talking about these educational outcomes of African Americans post-COVID. And they said the numbers are depressing.
It's bad.
In terms of your focus with education, one, do you support public charters? Do you support, how do we deal with those numbers? Because at the end of the day, if our kids are staying behind, that's just going to make it even more difficult for them when it comes to getting jobs. That education plan for America, if you're president.
Yeah, so I have supported public charters, but here's the thing that we have to just focus on in this election. First of all, Donald Trump would get rid of the Department of Education, which means that as a vehicle for funding a lot of what we need to do around public education for our children, it would be get rid of Head Start. And we know how many of our children have benefited from that in the earliest stages of their development, which are the most critical to them being able to be successful as they go through the educational process. So there is a huge contrast between me and him. And frankly, I don't think he wants to talk about education, which is why it has not become an issue on the debate stage, because he doesn't have a plan, which takes me back to a fundamental point. He doesn't have a plan for much of anything that is about the people who are going to be watching this interview. I invite everyone, always and again, watch his rallies. He will talk full-time about himself. He will talk about his personal grievances, and he will not talk about you and any plan that he has for you or your children or your future.
How does it make you feel when he trashes black cities? So in 2020, he talked about voting in Fulton County, Atlanta, Philadelphia, Detroit. There was a partial recount of Wisconsin, only in Milwaukee. The comments that he just made about Detroit basically being a living hell.
Oakland, D.C., Chicago.
Pretty damn ad.
Come on. Come on.
Pretty good damn ad y'all dropped out. I actually liked it. Jamil Hill and I talked about it. But again, he's singling out cities where there are significant African Americans, and that's who he's talking about. Black people.
Yes. There's this whole, I talked with somebody once who said, if you just look at where the stars are in the sky, don't look at them as just random things. If you just look at them as points, look at the constellation, what does it show you? So you just outlined it, Roland. What does it show you? That the cities that he picks on in terms of black population or black mayor are both. Come on.
We're in North Carolina, and this has been a battleground over voting rights. Federal judges 8 years ago said there was laser-like precision targeting African Americans. That is still a major issue. You got the Supreme Court with their decision regarding Section 2, Section 4 of the Voting Rights Act. And so what if Congress doesn't move, what can you do to shore that up? Because that continues to be a major issue. And with so many African Americans now moving from northern locations of Midwest back to the South, we're seeing these problems in Mississippi, Georgia, Alabama, Tennessee, Texas, and others.
Well, to your point, you mentioned North Carolina, which has been well documented. You look at, even though I must say that North Carolina has a governor in Roy Cooper who has tried to do everything he can to ensure that voting rights are intact, but he does not have a veto-proof majority in the state house.
Plus, Dems lost the Supreme Court as well.
Well, and so, I think that we should all, whoever's in North Carolina watching this, Josh Stein running for governor, it's going to be very important. Pay attention to those state house races, because those, if they can change the balance in the state house, then they will be able to push through more protections for voting rights. But to your point, in Georgia, they passed a law preventing people from giving food and water to folks who are standing in line to vote, which is the height of hypocrisy. Because, you know, what happened to love thy neighbor, right? There is a full-on intent by some to attack hard-fought, hard-won freedoms and rights, including the right to vote. And part of it, if you track it, is if you look at the successes that we had, in particular in 2020, and in the height of a pandemic when people just said they were going to vote, they knew and they understood how important it was. Thereafter, you saw in state after state attempts by state legislatures to make it more difficult for people to vote. And here's what I would say to your listeners. Don't let anybody take you out the game. There is an intent to make it more difficult. There is an intent to suggest to a lot of folks that their vote won't matter, with the intention that people will not vote, which is an attempt to silence folks. And what we know is the greatest progress we have achieved is when we jump over those obstacles that have been purposely laid to do what we know is about progress. And this election is going to be no different. They've already started with the misinformation and the lies. We know that there is foreign interference, and I have to say to everybody listening to this, don't let them take your voice. Because I was part of the Senate Intelligence Committee when we investigated Russia's interference in the 2016 election. Black folks were targeted with misinformation because there was an assumption that you're already targeting a group of people who already have learned, based on a lived experience, that things aren't necessarily designed to work for them, and manipulate that in a way that suggests to people that their vote won't matter. Because if you do that, they won't vote. That was the intention.
You said don't let them take you out of the game. What do you say to a young black woman, a young black man out there who is seriously considering the couch, who says my vote doesn't matter, who says that I have not seen policies that have changed my life, because that's there. That thought process is there. Folks 65 and older vote the highest, but as you keep going down, as you get that number just goes even lower and lower and lower. So what do you say to that young brother or sister who's watching?
Yeah.
Why they should vote, but why they should trust you to be the 47th president?
So first of all, your vote does matter. It is because folks voted that we have capped the cost of insulin at $35 a month, that we are on the path to doing what I intend to do, which is saying that your medical debt cannot be on your credit score, putting $16 billion in HBCUs, having the lowest black unemployment in recent history. The work that we have done that has been about investing in black businesses, the work that we have done that has been about understanding the importance of having representation at every level, including a black woman on the United States Supreme Court for the first time. It's because people voted and demanded that. And the reality of how this system works is that we each have many ways that we are powerful. And one of those ways, very significantly, is through our vote. People sit down and they'll watch and say, okay, well, those folks aren't going to vote anyway. I don't need to listen to them. That's how this works. I don't feel that way. I'm going to go everywhere. That's why I'm in rural parts of North Carolina and Georgia and other places where people say, oh, your votes aren't there. But my people are there. People are there.
That's how Obama won the state in 2008.
Well, but
14,100
the
votes.
point is that I'm saying that not everyone, and not the system doesn't necessarily work that way.
Mm-hmm.
The hard reality of the system is that often the people whose policies get pushed through are the people who actually demand what they want through their vote.
Squeaky wheel gets the most grease.
Often. That is the way it works. And when people who are, and I'm not talking about myself, just anybody who's running for office, when they see young black people are voting, they're going to say, well, I better know they're going to vote anyway. I better know what they want. Mm-hmm. I better listen to them. What do they want? Because I see that they turn out in big numbers.
Criminal justice. One of the things I keep hearing, Biden-Harris administration didn't get George Floyd Justice Act passed through. But what you have, though, is a very aggressive civil rights division that, and I've covered all the stories, the number of former police officers they've actually sent to prison, corrections officers, jailers. And I haven't heard it.
Some of the highest numbers in recent history, and certainly compare those numbers to Trump administration, and you see a stark difference.
Yeah, he had one Patterson practice investigation, then 12 under this DOJ.
Exactly right.
Will you continue having that aggressive of a DOJ civil rights division? Because the work that's being done, I mean, it doesn't get a lot of attention and it talked about a lot, but it is actually happening, the work that Kristen Clark and others are doing.
They're doing extraordinary work, and that is the work that would continue in a Harris administration. Let me tell you something, and again, because, Roland, I have to keep stressing not only the importance of every point, but the contrast between me and Donald Trump. Under Donald Trump as president, those cases were not happening with any vigor or commitment, and not only that, he took resources out of the Civil Rights Division of the Department of Justice. We put resources into the Civil Rights Division of the Department of Justice so they could do the job they're supposed to do. And that absolutely would continue under me and my leadership. And it's about looking at what people have done or what they say. Again, you know the record of Donald Trump on these issues. You know the record of where he is on things like stop and frisk, right? And what the Project 2025 talks about. So there is a real contrast here on criminal justice, as there is on almost every issue that we have discussed.
FBI director said white domestic terrorism was America's greatest threat. How do you get folks who are not black to understand that hate crimes are still real? These things are actually happening in the country, and they have to be dealt with and addressed. Because when you talk about that, folks go, oh, no, these things are not happening. But the reality is they are, and African Americans still are number one when it comes to hate crimes being reported against us.
Well, I know that because I published the hate crimes report every year when I was Attorney General of California. And it is, to your point, about talking about it and making people clear that we have actually seen a spike in hate crimes across the board. And it does not help when you have somebody who is a former president and running to be president again, who is constantly fanning the flames of hate and division in our country. Constantly.
You often asked about Israel, Gaza, Ukraine. I never hear come up conversations about Africa. You traveled there. Fastest growing, 6 of the top 10 fastest growing economies. Very young continent. A lot of folks complain about Chinese investment. But in terms of your presidency dealing with the continent in those countries, what will that look like? Because that's the future of this world when you look at, again, those economies. And I've been to several countries, and those presidents are saying, hey, we want to be able to.
You came with me. Come on now.
Well, no, I didn't go that trip, but if you win, I'll go on the next one.
Well, let me tell you. So this has been, you're preaching to the choir. Listen, I believe so strongly, and that is part of the work I've done as vice president, that we've got to change the narrative around the relationship between the United States and the continent of Africa. For a long time, it has been one that has been about aid as opposed to partnership.
Or investment, right.
Partnership,
yep.
Which includes U.S. investment. So the work I've done as vice president has been to begin to change that relationship, and including the delegation that I took to the continent, which was focused on, I brought billions of dollars and have worked on billions of dollars of U.S. investment in the continent and in countries on the continent of Africa, looking at what we need to do around, also I've been partnering with technology companies around digital inclusion, so ensuring that folks have access to fintech, to financial banking and sectors. But to your point, the median age on the continent is 19. By 2050, 1 in 4 people on Earth will be on the continent of Africa. That is so, so, so exciting. If we see it in terms of global policy, for the opportunity it presents to invest in partnership and to do the work that is about understanding the mutual benefit. So that is very much on my agenda as a priority. It has been as vice president, and it will continue to be. if I am and when I am elected president.
And mentioning those countries, when we talk about immigration, it has been African Americans. It's been in some quarters extremely contentious, and I've said, wait a minute, there are people who are coming from African nations, who are coming from Haiti, who are coming from Bermuda, who are coming from different countries, and you have these battles happening in Chicago and New York. What do you say to African Americans specifically about immigration, and how are you going to deal with that? Because there was a reason folks are being sent to various cities to create the tension. But it's talked about. It's there. It is a real concern. So what do you say to African Americans specifically who say, shut it all down, folks can't come in, close the border, who sound in many ways like MAGA folks?
So first of all, I have prosecuted transnational criminal organizations for the trafficking of guns, drugs, and human beings. I have had a career, including now, of prioritizing that we must have a secure border. And in fact, on the issue of immigration, let's be clear, some of the most conservative members of the United States Congress, together with others, had a bill to secure the border even more, and Donald Trump got wind of it, and because he thought it would hurt his political chances in this election, told them not to put it up for a vote. He killed the bill that would have put 1,500 more border agents at the border, which is why the border agent union supported it. That bill would have stemmed the flow of fentanyl, which is affecting people of every race and background and geographic location in our country. That bill would have given more resources to prosecute transnational criminal organizations. Donald Trump told him, cancel that bill because he wants to run on a problem instead of fix a problem. I'm about fixing problems. And that includes, when I am elected president, bringing back up that border security bill, and I will sign it into law. We also must have an immigration system that is humane and orderly. We have to increase the number of asylum judges. We need to make sure that people who are fleeing harm, that we give them a chance to explain their situation in a meaningful way, because America also is a place that we have said we will receive people who are fleeing persecution. They got to make their case. And then they got to be on a path where they earn the right to be here and become citizens, which means we need to have a comprehensive immigration policy that includes requiring people to earn and work hard to earn their citizenship.
The last question, since your folks are dancing back here, so I see them all in my periphery, so y'all can relax, Cedric.
Congressman.
Huh? Well, you know, he's a Saints fan too. We won't talk about that. Why do you want this? Why do you want to be president? There's somebody who's saying, why should I trust her with the power of being commander-in-chief?
I love our country, Roland. I believe in the American people. And I know we are a people who have the character, that have ambition, that have aspirations, dreams. And I intend to be a president who meets people with opportunities for them to not just get by, but get ahead. I believe in our country and the importance of its strength in terms of what that means to the world. As Vice President of the United States, I have met over 150 world leaders, presidents, prime ministers, chancellors, and kings. I know the importance of America retaining respect as a power around the globe. And that's why I am putting in the hard work of working to earn every person's vote so we can actually turn the page on what has been otherwise years of an attempt to divide us as a nation, to have Americans point their fingers at each other, years of belittling people and promoting fear. People are exhausted with that. They're ready to turn the page. They're ready for a new generation of leadership. that's about charting a new way forward. And that's what I intend to do, with a sense of optimism and being clear-eyed about the challenges that folks face and the opportunities that we have to address those challenges in a way that strengthens our nation.
Oh, we certainly appreciate it. And let me wish you a happy early birthday.
Thank you.
I'm not going to say the age because I'm not trying to have all these sisters get an attitude. I can't believe you did that. But, you know.
Yeah, I would, for your well-being, I would advise you not to do that.
But it'll be published anyway. So we appreciate it. Thanks a lot.
I appreciate you.
All
Thank
right.
you.
Bob and I both voted for Donald Trump.
I voted for him twice. I won't vote for him again. January 6th was a wake-up call for me.
Donald Trump divides people. We've already seen what he has to bring.
He didn't do anything to help us. Kamala Harris, she cares about the American people. I think she's got the wherewithal to make a difference. I've never voted for a Democrat.
Yes, we're both lifelong Republicans.
The choice is very simple.
I'm voting for Kamala.
I am voting for Kamala Harris.
IVF is a miracle for us because it allowed us to have our family. After having my daughter, I wanted more children, but my embryo transfer was canceled 8 days before the procedure. Donald Trump overturning Roe v. Wade stopped us from growing the family that we wanted. I don't want politicians telling me how or when I can have a baby. We need a president that will protect our rights, and that's Kamala Harris.
I'm Kamala Harris, and I approve this message.
Of 100 Republicans who worked in national security for Presidents Reagan, both Bushes, and for President Trump, now endorsing Harris for president.
She came up as a prosecutor, an attorney general, into the Senate. She has the kind of character that's going to be necessary in the presidency.
Vice President Harris is standing in the breach at a critical moment in our nation's history. We have a shared commitment as Americans to do what's right for this country. This year, I am proudly casting my vote for Vice President Kamala Harris.
Former generals, secretaries of defense, secretaries of the Army, Navy, and Air Force, CIA directors, and National Security Council leaders under Democratic and Republican presidents, Republican members of Congress, and even former Trump administration officials agree there's only one candidate fit to lead our nation, and that's Kamala Harris.
I'm Kamala Harris, and I approve this message.
Hello, we're the Critter Fixers. I'm Dr. Bernard Hodges.
And I'm Dr. Terrence Ferguson.
And you're tuned in to
Roland Martin, Unfiltered.
All right, folks, let's talk about that interview with our panel, Julian, Amakongo, and Renita. Let's get it going. Renita, I'll start with you first.
Yeah, I thought that was a great and informative interview. I'm glad that you took the time to do that because a lot of the questions where, remembering that Vice President Harris was, she came in as a nominee much later into the campaign season because of what happened with Biden relinquishing the nomination, meant that she has not had as much time to get her message out like in a traditional campaign. So I think that these opportunities to sit down and really go over issues that are targeted at certain communities, in this case, targeted to the Black community, that was a great and informative conversation. I like that you brought up some topics that I think that we probably would never see covered in mainstream media, not even on the left, particularly when you brought up what she thought about relations with Africa. I thought that that was very important and something that we likely would not see covered in the campaign cycle. So again, it's why Black media matters. This interview really shows it. So I thought that there were a few key things in the interview that it was good that we had a chance to hear her elaborate on what she really feels. And that to me really stood out as one of those moments.
It was interesting, Julian, because when I asked the Africa question, she started smiling because, it doesn't get asked, and that's actually things that she's actually worked on. Exactly.
I mean, the fact is that Africa policy is very rarely mentioned by any president, and yet we know that there is a symbiotic relationship, both because we're African Americans of African descent and because there is Africa policy that we've relinquished to China and Russia. So I saw her smile, and I just thought, yes, absolutely. There's so many things that could be said. I was surprised, I'm not surprised, but I was, kind of surprised. I had wished that you'd ask her about Haiti also, but I did like the comments that she made around what she wants to do with the economy. I think that's really important. I mean, another question, Roland, might have been, but it was a great interview, so I'm not being critical much. But both Harris and Trump say they're going to lower inflation. I'm really interested in how they think they're going to lower inflation. Inflation is not a presidential purview. I thought it was a thorough interview. I thought that it was very good. That you saw a side of her that you don't often see, because I think she was relaxed with you. She was relaxed, and she was very self-possessed, and have some humor in the process. And that's what we want to see in a president. We don't want to see somebody who scowls, as Mr. Trump did for the whole debate. I mean, just scowled. You want to see someone who you saw her human side. And I was really pleased about that. The housing piece is also really important. And I think the way you approached it allowed her to really elaborate on some of the historical trends in terms of housing, the fact that we haven't built housing, and I don't know how long, and also the fact that when we look at housing units and look at what we have, she really talked about historical trends in terms of Black home ownership and where we've lost ground, where we've actually lost ground. So great job, Roland.
Well, again, we only had 30 minutes. So, I couldn't, if they had given me the 45 minutes, they gave the 47 minutes all the smoke got. The 43 minutes the white girl from Call Me Daddy got, or the 1 hour and 6 minutes Howard Stern got. I could have asked a lot more of those questions. So I was limited in my time. So I had a lot more stuff I wanted to ask. And trust me, that's what I wanted. But Makongo, the thing here that first of all, part of the thing on the housing deal. Look, I've been hitting that thing for a very long time, and this is. And all the people who watch it, and this is really for the audience to understand, and lead the panel as well, and this ain't about patting myself on the back. But here's the problem. I need everybody to understand, here's the problem when y'all watch most of these interviews. Most of these interviews, these hosts don't know shit.
Yep.
Y'all, no, I need everybody to watch it and understand. Most of these hosts, if y'all actually cue back up, y'all didn't see me sitting there with no cards on my lap. Mm-hmm. Okay? Mm-hmm. I ain't have my iPad out. I didn't even have my phone out. And so for me, I didn't sit down before, let me sort of go over. I did not, I have an idea of what some things I wanted to cover. I look at topics, but the other thing is, Makongo, I listen to the person while they're talking, and I sort of want the conversation to flow that way. And literally, it was only like an hour before when somebody had posted on Twitter that clip of her saying, I'm not going to sit here and tell you what I'm going to do specifically for Black people, but they posted the whole clip. Mm-hmm. So you got context. And I just thought, hey, you know what? This clip, they've been running this damn clip out of context for 5 years. Let me open up with this. But that's just a fact. That's just fact. Most of these people asking questions, they can't ask no deep housing question because they don't know this stuff.
You're absolutely right. And that's why I like what the late Rachel Madison said. He said, your next question is always based off of the last answer, right? So many of these journalists and hosts, they have these questions that they just have to get through before the break or before the person gets whisked off, but there's no real conversation there. And so the candidate or whoever the interviewee is just gets to give their talking points. But one of the things that she did, which was so great, when you were bringing up the housing thing and going on the stats about housing not being built and so on and so forth, she was like, I'm glad you brought that up. And that shows that there's that familiarity there because she knows the history, but also she can talk about her policies that she's done relating to it before she even got to the White House, which is extremely important for us to see that she's been in this fight. And she did that several times throughout the interview, going off of what Renita was saying about certain things that she liked that we don't really hear in other interviews was the education piece. I've never heard anyone ask her about education and what she thinks about public schools, charter schools, and all of that. And I'm sure more time, y'all could have gone deeper on the education piece.
Sure wanted to.
That in an interview.
Sure wanted to. And again,
yeah, no doubt, right?
Go ahead.
And the other piece was talking about the immigration issue as it relates to the Black community and African Americans and how African Americans should be seeing Africans. And I would add what Dr. Malveaux said, Haitians as well, like that she could speak to that dichotomy because that's also something that she's lived and seen. And so not only did you ask questions that she never gets asked, but you parsed out questions that she may get asked, but you took it to a deeper level in terms of how it affects our community. And, she's going on with Charlemagne tomorrow. I doubt she's going to get that. She's going on with Brett Baer on Wednesday with Fox. I doubt she's going to get that. So we needed that opportunity to have that real conversation with people from our community. So I'm really glad of what you were able to produce there.
And for all the folks who were watching, again, y'all have seen me show this on numerous times, but this is what I was talking about. And this is the fact. Prior to 2010, the fewest number of homes built in the United States was 4.79 million homes between 1940 and 1949. And that was when the federal government then passed a law specifically to deal with the issue of building housing stock in this country. And what you'll see right here, y'all, you'll see 10 million, 9.5 million, 12 million, 12 million, 12 million. It jumped to 14.5 million in 2009, and boom, the housing foreclosure crisis hit in 2008, impacted us in 2009, and then this was the result. If y'all want to better understand why there's a major housing crisis in the United States, it's right here. The fact that we built 8 million fewer homes in between 2010 and 2019. And the problem is we built fewer homes than we should be doing in 2020 to present day. So everybody else, when they keep talking about her housing plan, they keep focusing on the $25,000. They all, I've watched all these shows, they all completely ignored her saying we got to build 3 million more new homes, providing incentives for developers. Because here's the piece, and she talked about it. If you do that, then what's going to happen is cost of housing is going to go down because you got more stock. Because your demand is already there, so now you got more availability. And what it does is it lowers what's happening with rental properties. So the problem we have right now in America, there are people who can afford a new home who are actually renting. And so I just need people to understand how our economy is supposed to work. We're supposed to transition from rental into owning. But when private equity, and then the estimate is that private equity, and again, that's why I wish I had, my God, I had 15 more minutes, because private equity is going to be owning 40% of all single-family homes by 2030. Y'all, that's in 6 years, 40%. Private equity don't want you owning a house. They want you paying high rents because they're going to keep making money. And so that, for me, that's why, for everybody to understand, that's why I didn't waste time asking her about Obama's comments about black men. Because I was there at the 100 Black Men Conference. And so the Shade Room did an interview with her. They asked her. I didn't know what they were going to ask, but I purposely didn't ask that question because I knew what other folks were going to ask. I wasn't wasting my time with no Israel, Gaza, or no Ukraine question, because that question has been asked 5,000 times. I saw that damn interview NABJ did, and I was sitting here like I wouldn't have asked half of them damn questions, because there are questions that white media ask. And so I need people to understand This is why black-owned media matters. This is why we have to have access, because we are going, and we're supposed to go there asking different stuff than what they put out there. And that's just important. So, again, I need people to understand that. I thought what also, and it was important to get her on the record, and they've been talking about it, again, Donald Trump's attacks on black cities, and then how she expanded on that, and then asking her about hate crimes and about the Department of Justice Civil Rights Division. That stuff, to me, Renita, again, doesn't get covered. And I'm going to tell you right now, and I done told Karine Jean-Pierre this directly. I done told the Chief of Staff this directly. I done told Neera Tanden directly. I'm like, I don't know why in the hell y'all never talk about what the hell is going on with the Department of Justice, because it's some great work being done. Y'all never talk about it.
Right. And I think that the reason they never talk about it is because they're still trying to straddle the line and basically kind of straddle the line of trying to please people who don't want to see cops critiqued at all versus people who want to see actual, us move closer to everybody being dealt with fairly and equally within the criminal legal system. And so I think that they make a mistake with that. Listen, as I know from having to campaign many, many times to the public, is that you're not going to win everyone's vote. That is impossible. So you have got to understand who your base is, and you have got to go for those folks and go for the portion of the electorate that you need in order to win an election. So I think that there were a lot of details in that part of the interview that, like you said, we're not going to hear those types of breakdowns of mainstream media, because they mostly cover what is quick to cover, what is not very complex, because then that sort of lends to more of the entertainment style of news. And that's generally what they stick to. Anything that's going to be complex but still important are things that are not generally going to be covered by mainstream media. So I was glad that you hit on that, and we were able to hear more of what the DOJ has been doing.
And also, so folks, right now, we are waiting for Vice President Kamala Harris to walk out at the rally she's holding right now in Erie, Pennsylvania. As soon as she does, we're going live to that. And one of the things she's going to be doing is hitting Donald Trump on his comment about, pull the audio up, please. She's going to be hitting Donald Trump about his comment of using the military. Bring it down some, guys. When I say bring it, just don't give me all of it. She's going to be hitting Donald Trump hard on his comments about using the military against his political enemies. And I was going to play the clip, but I'm told she is going to actually play the clip in this rally. So let's go live to Erie, Pennsylvania for the Vice President Kamala rally in this important battleground state.
Okay. Okay. Thank you. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, everybody. And I want to thank all of the leaders who are here. Thank you all for taking time out of your busy lives to be here this evening. And for all of us to be together. Can we hear it for Senator Fetterman? Your next state Attorney General, Eugene DePasquale. Mayor Schember. Bob Casey, be here tonight because he's out doing what he needs to do to get reelected to the United States Senate. All right. Okay, let's get to work. Let's get to work. Okay. Okay, so here's the thing, Pennsylvania, we got just 22 days until Election Day. 22 days. And we are nearing the home stretch. But here's the thing. This is going to be a tight race until the very end, okay? We are the underdog. We are running like the underdog. We have some hard work ahead of us. But here's the thing also. We like hard work. Hard work is good work. And with your help in 22 days, we will win. 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 And here's why. And here's why. Because this election is about two very different visions for our nation. One is focused on the past, and ours focused on the future. We are focused on issues that matter most to families across America, like bringing down the cost of living, investing in small businesses and entrepreneurs, protecting reproductive freedom, and keeping our nation secure. But that is not what we hear from Donald Trump. Instead, it is just the same old tired playbook. He has no plan for how he would address the needs of the American people and American families. He is only focused on himself. Well, folks, it's time to turn the page. Because America is ready to chart a new way forward. And America is ready for a new and optimistic generation of leadership. Which is why Democrats, Republicans, Independents are supporting our campaign. Because we need a president who works for all the American people. We are all in this together. And as you all know, this has been the story of my entire career. My entire career, I've only had one client, the people. As a young courtroom prosecutor, I stood up for women and children against predators. As Attorney General of California, I took on the big banks, fought to deliver $20 billion from middle-class families who faced foreclosure. I stood up for veterans and students who were being scammed by for-profit colleges. For workers who are being cheated out of the wages they were due. For seniors facing elder abuse, and it is my pledge to you as president, I will always fight for all the American people. Always. And together, we all will build a brighter future for our nation. Together. We will build a future where we have what I call an opportunity economy, where everyone can compete and have a real chance to succeed, not just to get by, but to get ahead. Under my economic plan, and by the way, you know, so dude wants to talk about his plans, which really are about cutting taxes for the richest people, please do check out the Wall Street Journal or Goldman Sachs or the 16 Nobel laureates or Moody's, who have all analyzed the plans and said mine will strengthen the economy, his will make it weaker. Okay? So under my economic plan, we will bring down the cost of housing and help first-time home buyers, giving them $25,000 for down payment assistance so you can just get your foot in the door. You'll do the rest, save up, you'll work hard, but just to help people get their foot in the door. We will help entrepreneurs start and grow small businesses. How many small business owners do we have here? I love our small businesses. You guys know it's part of my story. You know, my mother worked hard. We lived in an apartment above a daycare center, and it was owned by daycare centers, bless you. And it was owned by Miss Shelton, who we think of and thought of as our second mother, and she was a small business owner. And Miss Shelton, she was like all of you who do this work. You are business leaders, but you are community leaders, you are civic leaders, you mentor, you hire locally. I love our small businesses. Small businesses are part of the backbone of America's economy. So you all know what I'm talking about. And as we move forward, what we are going to do in terms of knowing that small businesses must get the support you need to start up and to grow. We will expand under my economic policy Medicare to cover home health care for seniors. So more seniors can live at home with dignity. And like so many of my priorities, it is born out of a personal experience. Look, when my mother got diagnosed with cancer, I took care of her. And for any of you who have taken care of someone, a senior in particular, you know what that's like. And it's about trying to cook something for them that they might enjoy eating. It's about trying to make sure that they have something that they can wear that won't irritate their skin, right? It's about trying to, from time to time, find a way to just bring a smile to their face or make them laugh. It's about dignity. It's about dignity. It's about dignity. But far too many people who want and need to take care of family members, either you have to leave your job or spend down everything you have to be able to qualify for Medicaid. That's not right. I look at the sandwich generation. So we refer to folks who are raising young children and taking care of your parents, the sandwich generation in between. Balancing all of that, it's a lot of pressure. And you need and deserve to have the support to be able to handle all of that in a way that we know you are adding so much to our community, societies, and our economies. So I have a plan, and my plan is to make sure Medicare, not so you have to pay down everything and get on Medicaid, so that Medicare helps pay for home health care. So you can do the work you need to get done in terms of the seniors in your life. Under our plan, we will lower the cost on everything from health care to groceries. Look, I'm going to take on corporate price gouging just like I've done before. I'm going to do it again. And give a middle-class tax cut to 100 million Americans, including $6,000 during the first year of your child's life. Knowing again, the vast majority of parents want to parent their children well, but don't always have the resources to do it. And so by expanding the child tax credit, that helps a young family buy a car seat, buy a crib, do the things at so fundamental stage of their child's development, just to get them on the road to what they desire and want to do. And we all benefit from it. We all benefit from it. So all of this is to say, I will always put the middle class and working families first. I come from the middle class, and I will never forget where I come from. Never forget where I come from. Never. So I just outlined for you a little bit of the plan. Now let's talk about Donald Trump. Well, he has a very different plan. Take, for example, Project 2025. Just Google it. It is a detailed and dangerous plan for what he will do if he is elected president. You know, y'all probably heard me say, Donald Trump, I think in our collective opinion, certainly mine, is an unserious man. But the consequences of him ever being president again are brutally serious. Brutally serious. So on Project 2025 in his plan, Donald Trump will give billionaires and corporations massive tax cuts like he's done before, cut Social Security and Medicare. The plan on that end is to get rid of the $35 cap on insulin for seniors, to make it easier for companies to deny overtime pay for workers. You gotta read the plan. I mean, the fact they put it in writing is a whole other thing to be discussed. And he plans to impose what I call a Trump sales tax, a 20% tax on everyday necessities, which economists have measured will cost the average American family more than $4,000 a year. And on top of all of this, Donald Trump intends to get rid of the Affordable Care Act. And he has no plan to replace it. You guys watched the debate. Right. He has, quote, concepts of a plan. Concepts. But seriously, think about it in all seriousness. He's going to then threaten health insurance coverage for 45 million people based on a concept? The seriousness of this cannot be overlooked. Think about that, taking us back to a time we all remember when insurance companies could deny people with pre-existing conditions. You remember what that was? Well, we are not going back. We are not going back. We are not going back. No. And why are we not going back? Because we will move forward. Because ours is a fight for the future. And it is a fight for freedom. Like the fundamental freedom of a woman to make decisions about her own body and not have her government telling her what to do. And we all remember how we got here. Donald Trump hand-selected 3 members of the United States Supreme Court to overturn Roe v. Wade, and they did. And now in America, 1 in 3 women lives in a state with a Trump abortion ban. Think about that. Many of these bans have no exceptions even for rape and incest, which is saying to a survivor of a crime of a violation to their body, that you have no right to make a decision about what happens to your body next? That's immoral. That's immoral. And let us agree, one does not have to abandon their faith or deeply held beliefs to agree the government should not be telling her what to do. Not the government. No. No. If she chooses, she will talk with her priest, her rabbi, her pastor, her imam, but not the government telling her what to do. Not a bunch of folks up at a state capitol telling her what to do, as though she doesn't know what's in her own best interest and they know better. Come on. And it is my pledge to you, when Congress passes a bill to restore the protections and reproductive freedom nationwide, as President of the United States, I will proudly sign it into law. Proudly sign it into law. Yes, I will. Yes, I will. So much is on the line in this election. So much is on. I love you back. And listen, so much is on the line in this election, and we have to remember, this is not 2016 or 2020. The stakes are even higher. Because a few months ago, the United States Supreme Court just told the former president that he would be essentially immune from anything he does while he's in office. Now, just imagine Donald Trump with no guardrails, right? He who has vowed, if reelected, that he will be a dictator on day one, that he would weaponize the Department of Justice against his political enemies. He who has called for the, quote, termination of the Constitution of the United States. Well. So hold on. Because see, here's the thing. The courts will handle that. Let's handle November, shall we? We'll handle November. And we are clear. Look, anybody who says they would terminate the Constitution of the United States should never again stand behind the seal of the President of the United States. Never again. Never again. Never again. So after all these years, we know who Donald Trump is. He is someone who will stop at nothing to claim power for himself. And you don't have to take my word for it. I've said for a while now, watch his rallies. Listen to his words. He tells us who he is. And he tells us what he would do if he is elected president. So here tonight, I will show you one example of Donald Trump's worldview and intentions. Please roll the clip.
The worst people are the enemies from within. The enemy from within. Those people are more dangerous, the enemy within, than Russia and China. These people should be put in jail the way they talk about our judges and our justices. Now, if you had one really violent day, one rough hour, and I mean real rough. I think the bigger problem are the people from within. We have some very bad people. We have some sick people, radical left lunatics. And I think they're and it should be very easily handled by, if necessary, by National Guard, or if really necessary, by the military. So you heard his words. You heard his words coming from him. He's talking about the enemy within Pennsylvania.
He's talking about the enemy within our country, Pennsylvania. He's talking about that he considers anyone who doesn't support him or who will not bend to his will an enemy of our country. It's a serious issue. He is saying that he would use the military to go after them. Think about this. And we know who he would target. And we know who he would target because he has attacked them before. Journalists whose stories he doesn't like. Election officials who refuse to cheat by filling extra votes and finding extra votes for him. Judges who insist on following the law instead of bending to his will. This is among the reasons I believe so strongly that a second Trump term would be a huge risk for America and dangerous. Donald Trump is increasingly unstable and unhinged. And he is out for unchecked power. That's what he's looking for. He wants to send the military after American citizens. He has worked to prevent women from making their own health care decisions and threaten your fundamental freedoms and rights, like the freedom to vote, the freedom to be safe from gun violence, the freedom to breathe clean air and drink clean water, the freedom to love who you love openly and with pride. So here in Pennsylvania, I say to those who know best, when freedom is on the line, Americans always answer the call. We always answer the call. And in this election, vote. And so, to your point, in this election, we will answer the call again. Because it all comes down to this. We are all here together because we know what's at stake. And we are here together because we love our country. We love our country. We love our country. County? How you all vote, and thank you, because how you all vote in presidential elections often ends up predicting the national result. The chant is Erie. Erie. That's right. And so in Erie County, you can vote early in person at the Erie County Voter Registration Office from now until Tuesday, October 29th. And so now is the time to make your plan to vote. And if you have already received your ballot in the mail, please do not wait. Fill it out and return it today or tomorrow, but please get it out. And remember, the deadline to register to vote in Pennsylvania is Monday, October 21st. So if you or anyone you know has not yet registered, now is the time, because, look, the election is here. And we need to organize, we need to mobilize, we need to energize folks, and we need to remind everybody that their vote is their voice, and your voice is your power.
All right, folks, so the feed from Erie, Pennsylvania keeps freezing. Let's go back to Erie. Here we go.
Ready to fight for it! And when we fight, we win! God bless you, and God bless the United States of America.
All right, not quite sure what was happening technically, but toward the end it froze a couple of times. Vice President Kamala Harris there in Erie. You saw the mashup that she ran of the wild and crazy comments that Donald Trump has made on this campaign trail, including saying in an interview that he would use the military to go after his political enemies. His people are often saying, oh, Biden is doing that, Trump won't do it. Y'all got to remember, he ordered his own Department of Justice to investigate Hillary Clinton. So they're absolute lies. So that's just a lie that you hear them saying. And so what you also, I love these people who call me when I'm live on the air. Earlier, Congressman Maxine Waters called me. I took a call during the break. So, I mean, that's what you see going on here, folks. Just to understand what's happening here, it's very clear. I thought, now, just in case y'all, again, didn't hear it, I'm going to play for you. This is literally what Donald Trump said about targeting his political enemies. And if you want to know why this man has no business being near the Oval Office, and with the Supreme Court decision regarding immunity, guys, that's not it. Regarding immunity, this man will, and I'm telling y'all right now, this man is going to absolutely abuse his power. And the problem is the U.S. Supreme Court is going to let him. The U.S. Supreme Court is going to do that. Y'all didn't pull the video down earlier? What he said about attacking his political, y'all don't have it? Nope, y'all should have pulled it earlier. I sent it in. No, what I played early was not Trump and political enemies. Okay, folks, let me just find it myself. Tim Walz actually commented on this a little bit earlier. So this was an interview that Donald Trump gave. Give me 1 second. And this in an interview with Maria Bartiromo on Fox News, which was an insane interview. Even when she asked him about his tariffs proposal and how economists say it is going to actually drive the deficit up. All right, here we go. Pull the audio up. Here we go. This is literally what he had to say.
Are you expecting chaos on Election Day?
No, I don't think so. Not from the side that votes for Trump.
But I'm just wondering if these outside agitators will start up on Election Day. Let's say you win. I mean, let's remember, you've got 50,000 Chinese nationals in this country in the last couple of years. Yeah. You have people on the terrorist watch list, 350 in the last couple of years. You've got, like you said, 13,000 murderers and 15,000 rapists. Right. What are you expecting? Joe Biden said he doesn't think it's going to be a peaceful Election Day.
Well, he doesn't have any idea what's happening in all fairness. He spends most of his day sleeping. I think the bigger problem is the enemy from within, not even the people that have come in and destroying our country. By the way, totally destroying our country. The towns, the villages, they're being inundated. But I don't think they're the problem in terms of election day. I think the bigger problem are the people from within. We have some very bad people. We have some sick people, radical left lunatics. And I think they're and it should be very easily handled by, if necessary, by National Guard, or if really necessary, by the military, because they can't let that happen.
Donald Trump talked about, Donald Trump mentioned in y'all the enemy within. Anybody else find that to be interesting, that he talks about the enemy within? This enemy? Is that who he's talking about? Is he talking about that enemy? Because that was January 6, 2021, and that was a whole bunch of MAGA people who, you know, so was this. How about this?
Multiple capital injuries. Multiple capital injuries.
So I heard them, that was over the radio, multiple capital injuries. You saw that cop there in a vice grip, his head in between. Matter of fact, this is the shot. That's a cop. I thought they backed the blue. So the enemy within, Julian, that's MAGA. That's those maggots. That's those crazy, deranged white supremacists. The FBI has arrested 900 people from January 6th. That, MAGA people, conservatives, Republicans, that is the enemy within. Trump people.
Absolutely. We've seen it from city to city. You've seen them, you know, at Black Lives Matter rallies try to create disruption, like the young man who shot 2 people. We've seen them, and they're rabid. They're literally rabid. So that he would say, you know, the enemy within, he must be looking in the mirror and talking about himself. He is the greatest threat to our Constitution and to orderly government that we've ever seen. And, you know, he keeps talking about other people have done it. Biden didn't call for an investigation of Trump. He could have, but he didn't. Of course, the Justice Department and others looked into his illegal behavior, but President Biden kept his hands off of that. And we have to keep that in mind. This man is just a sociopath and a liar, and he gets away with it because there are so many people that have been brainwashed, literally brainwashed. I mean, there's a thread on Facebook, this brother from Atlanta who's very conservative, and they're basically propagating lies about Kamala, about Biden, about public policy. But there are many groups like this, and what they are doing is they're just basically kowtowing. The enemy from within, that's very ironic. The FBI has talked about white domestic terrorism. They've talked about it as a threat to our democracy. So have others. So as you look at it, you say, what is he really talking about? And I think Kamala also, on her rally, had a really good point when she said, you know, they're going to go after journalists, which we've already seen them do. He'll probably go after, he'll go after anyone who's been opposed to him. Now, he says he only wants to be that dictator for that one day. Well, that's a tale. People don't give power up. So, you know, I'm just looking at and shaking my head. I'm glad that she ran the clip at her rally. I'm glad that people got to hear him. But, you know, she's preaching to the choir. People who come to a Kamala Harris rally are not going to, you know, they're going to vote. They're going to be out there. what we need to do is figure out a way, which is probably impossible, to pierce the consciousness of some of these Trumpers, to have them look at this differently and say,
First of all, that ain't happened. So the Trumpers, no, it's not. And so it's really a waste of time. It's a waste of time trying to deal with the Trumpers. To win this, you drive your own people out. To win, you drive the people who are likely going to vote for you. That's how you actually win. I do want to ask you this real quick, Julian, being the economist. We all know Maria Bartiromo is an absolute idiot. She's a maggot. She's one of the folks that if she probably wasn't on television, she would have been out at the Capitol on January 6th. She probably did one of the most honest things she's ever done in asking Trump about his tariffs, and actually exposed how stupid he is. I want you to comment on this after I play it. Watch this.
About the criticism, and the Journal has done this as well, that if you do put something like a 200% tariff on a product, that it's only going to mean higher prices for consumers.
It's not. No, it doesn't mean that.
It's got to be passed on somehow.
No, right. All I'm doing is saying, I'll put 200 or 500, I don't care. I'll put a number where they can't sell one car into the United. I don't want them to sell the car, because I don't want them hurting our car companies. We're going to have a lot of companies moving into the United States. When I use 200, I'm using it as a number. I don't want their car. They will not be able to sell cars. I'm not going to let them build a factory right across the border and sell millions of cars into the United States and destroy Detroit further.
So that's interesting, because that's what tariffs do. The reality is he's an idiot, Julian. Tariffs, the country doesn't pay tariffs. It does not come from the country. The folks who buy the goods, they're the ones who pay the tariff. This man is literally dumb.
Well, when you listen to him, you have to conclude that. I mean, he says, no, it won't raise prices. It will raise prices. As you know, Bartiromo, who is not a genius, said, costs going to be passed on somewhere. You import a car, from wherever, you put the 20% tariff on it, that means the price is higher. Now, the importer may choose to absorb some of the price, but they're not going to absorb all of it. And so the 20% across-the-board tariff that he's talked about means for goods that are produced elsewhere, significant inflationary pressure. And there's so many goods that are basically manufactured elsewhere. Our sororities and fraternities often buy, the jerseys and the sweatshirts and whatever from, abroad, usually China. I had a soror who actually had an import business bringing in goods so she could sell them at sorority meetings. And she was making good money, too. So just saying, people do depend on, and he cannot protect Detroit. He cannot protect U.S. manufacturers. We have it just makes no sense at all. It makes no economic sense. In addition to the fact that, let's say that you were able to shut down Toyota, Hyundai, just make the list. Detroit doesn't have the capacity to produce enough cars to meet that demand. And he should know that. I mean, he goes to Detroit and he tells lies. He goes to Detroit and he down talks the place. So, I can't say enough, Roland, about how ignorant that man is. And the contrast is the way that Kamala Harris presents at her rallies, in her interview with you. Every time she presents extraordinarily well. She has good sense. She thinks on her feet. She doesn't scowl. She's not hollering. There's a big difference.
Well, check this out. I want you to comment on this before we go off the air. Go to my iPad. 68% of economists say that Donald Trump's economic policies are going to actually drive inflation up compared to Vice President Kamala Harris.
Absolutely. If you slap a 20% tariff on foreign goods, someone's going to pay more in prices. That's it. And we do import quite a bit from other countries, and it will be a price increase. Lots of essential goods and services come from other countries. It will be a price increase. He can't figure it out. That's the problem, is he can't figure it out. And he's supposed to be such a good business person. Well, we all know he wasn't, as Kamala said. How many bankruptcies? Most people only have one, then they learn their lesson. But this guy, he goes bankrupt like some people go to the bathroom.
Absolutely, and this actually, folks, dropped a couple of. Give me just 1 second. There was a video that dropped a couple of hours ago that I just want to play real quick for our control room. We're gonna roll this into our the spots that we run. Give me 1 second. Okay, guys, here we go. Media. Let me see if it's here. I see it on my phone. I'm trying to figure out where it is on my iPad. Let's see here. All right, here we go. So they have dropped, the Harris campaign has dropped this commercial here that speaks to Donald Trump and the Central Park Five. Watch.
Wrongfully convicted.
5 teenagers were arrested, tried, convicted, and sent to prison.
Men were exonerated.
What he did to us, he tried to end us.
Of course I hate these people.
So-called the Central Park Five.
Calling for our execution.
And let's all hate these people.
We cannot have this man go into office again.
And I want society to hate him.
We were innocent kids.
The confessions were coerced.
Today, we are exonerated. That guy says he still stands by the original guilty verdict.
This is about democracy being on the ballot.
I have absolutely no compassion.
Look at Kamala. She represents the kaleidoscope of the human family. There's something different happening in America. We will get the opportunity to build a future where we will be able to thrive and not just survive.
Julian, your thoughts?
I'm so happy that the Central Five were exonerated, the exonerated five. But the venom in which he went after these young men is reflective of the venom which he will go after Black people writ large. We've already seen some of what he has had to say about the Springfield Haitian people, Haitian, legal immigrants. We've already heard what he's had to say about our cities. We've heard what he has to say about African countries. And so the clips are well done in terms of what he talks about. He hates these people. You can hate the crime, but don't hate the criminal. His hatred is more generic. It's hate of Black people, except for those few people that he can gather up for Black men for Trump and things like that. We don't have any room for hatred in the White House. We simply don't.
Absolutely. Julian, we appreciate it. Thanks a lot. Folks, that is it for us. We're going to have more on tomorrow's show. Let me also do this here. Just give me a second. We're going to be in North Carolina just hold on. We're going to be in North Carolina on Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. So I'm just going to read it for you. Just okay. So let's see here. So Wednesday, we're broadcasting from Elizabeth City State University. Don't show it yet. I need to double check to make sure the QR code works. Hold on 1 second. All right, here we go, y'all. Show the QR code. This is the QR code. Point your camera to this. We're broadcasting live from Elizabeth City State University on Wednesday. We're going to put together a graphic. We're going to put it on social media. I just got the email 30 minutes ago. So this is the QR code for our broadcast on Wednesday at 6 p.m. at Elizabeth City State University in North Carolina, okay? Then on Thursday, give me 1 second. Let me go to it. On Thursday, we're going to be broadcasting from Word Tabernacle Church in Rocky Mount, North Carolina. This is the QR code for Thursday's broadcast. We have a sign up here because we want to make sure that we got enough space and everything like that. And so again, Thursday, we'll broadcast, I don't know why I say it's 6 to 7:30, but it's 6 to 8. So we're going to be there on Thursday. This is, again, from Rocky Mount. So, check it out. And so let's see here. On Friday, give me 1 second. Friday, We're going to be broadcasting from Fayetteville State University. This is the QR code right here for our broadcast at Fayetteville State University. Again, you sign up for that as well. And so we're going to be there, and so can't wait to be there as well. So lots of things going on. Stay right there. That's the QR code, Fayetteville State, again, happening on Friday. So, again, we head to the Black Belt Tour, North Carolina, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. I'm making some luncheon stops. Those have not been locked in yet. Just simply follow our social media, and we'll have that stuff for you. And so that's happening. So we're going to be on the ground in North Carolina Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. And we're talking right now about broadcasting this show in Michigan, in Wisconsin, and Milwaukee, and we're even looking at actually just Michigan, Wisconsin. So we're looking at that. So we'll keep you abreast of what's going on. All right, folks, don't forget, support the work that we do. I keep telling y'all, your dollars are so critical as we go around this country. We don't get the advertising support that we need, but it is so helpful. And so please, we're still dealing with Cash App and all that drama, but support us, y'all. Please give via PayPal, Venmo, or Zelle. PayPal is R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle, Roland at RolandSMartin.com, Roland at RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. And of course, download the Black Star Network app, Apple phone, Android phone, Apple TV, Android TV, Roku, Amazon Fire TV, Xbox One, Samsung Smart TV. Be sure to get a copy of my book, White Fear, How the Browning of America is Making White Folks Lose Their Minds, available at bookstores nationwide. Folks, that's it. I'll see y'all tomorrow. Oh, some of y'all have been asking me, voting while black. This is one of the shirts that came from Color of Change. And so if you go to colorofchange.org, you can actually get this t-shirt. They have two. It's a lighter gray. I had that one on the other day. And so this voting while black t-shirt came from, what's it, Color of Change. All right, y'all, that's it. I'll see y'all tomorrow. If y'all want to also see the interview with Kamala Harris, go to our youtube.com/Roland S. Martin. Go to the Black Star Network app and check it out. All right, y'all. Holla! Black Star Network is here.
Oh, no punch! I'm real revolutionary right now.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, there's a difference between Black Star Network and black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig?